Good morning and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are. On day 330, and I'm continuing this story of buried treasure. Now you might remember that, well, in that part of the world, in those lands, every fall there was a harvest festival, and our group of young people decided at a certain point that, well, it might be a good idea to hold the harvest festival on their land. Now remember, they had all started families of their own. All of them had ended up building their own places to live on or in on the land. They all had homes right there on the property. And they did this because, one, they were spending so much time on the land that it just made sense that they would work at home doing the professions that they had cultured in their lives. But then it was easy just to go out and do the work. But the other part of it was they all really loved being together and working together. Now, their father would have said it was in large part due the harmony that they experienced with each other because of the way he had laid out the land, the way he had taught them to build homes in accord with the laws of nature, oriented to the cardinal directions and influenced by the passing of the sun through all of the hours of the day. Different rooms, you might imagine, would take in the sun in different ways during the day. For instance, where would the sun shine first? Coming into the eastern part of the house, which is why, of course, he would orient that entryway, the initial entryway into the house, facing east. This was true of cultures throughout time, did exactly the same thing. They faced their dwellings toward the east, toward the rising sun. The sun, the most powerful force that we experience from nature in any given day. Then it would pass generally, if you're in the northern hemisphere, a little bit to the south. And that whole south side of the house would gain, the sunlight's benefit throughout the day. Finally, the sun pulling, so to speak, the energy with it toward the west at the end of the day. What a great place to have a bedroom there to the west, where you could watch as the sun set, feeling its energy even pull you with it into the night's sleep. The children had been pretty diligent to follow along with his prescriptions in house building. In their quiet moments, each one on their own, reflected on the great wisdom that he had imparted to them. And they saw how, even though they had resisted it for much of their lives, they had also taken it in to include with the way that they lived. It had just simply made sense. They'd also reflected on how somehow or another, here they were doing the work that they had so resisted. And yet they found it enjoyable. To go out and to see the beauty of these gardens that they were creating, to realize that it had been their own efforts that had brought all of this beauty about. Well, it just did something to enhance the whole experience, enhanced their lives to the point where it was something that they didn't want to miss out from doing in any given day. It was simple to notice something and instead of just, accepting it as, let's say, being a little off, to go out and just change it right then and there. Pull a weed or a plant, I should say, where they didn't think it belonged. For what is a weed, really? It's simply a plant, but a plant that we don't really find a good use for where it's coming up. So they would pull those plants away, and maybe they would shift something here or there. But the end result was that their place had taken on an energetic radiance from all of the attention that they put on it. Neighbors, passerbys, everyone noticed. Their gardens were amazing. And people could not help but be drawn toward the joy and happiness that they witnessed in this group of people as they went about their days tending the land and bringing about such beauty into their world. The little stand, as I've mentioned, had evolved and changed into the market stand that they had at the property. And everyone pitched in to run the market. But then other things began to evolve from there. Of course, they all ran their businesses basically from that marketplace. There were wagon and carriage parts available in a certain section. There were finely woven baskets that hung from the rafters available. There were, of course, horse training opportunities, and some people even brought their children there during the day to learn how to be better horsemen or horse people. And then, of course, there were those who came to have fabrics turned into beautiful garments, garments mended, altered. But then there were a slew of new things coming up. Artwork from some of the children, little wreaths that were made from herbs that had been picked, bundles of dried herbs hanging from the rafters. One of their favorite that filled the entire market space with an incredible fragrance was the lavender bundles. The shelves in the market were filled with delicious, nutritious foods. And so these days were glorious days for that family of people. And we'll leave the story there. Imagining for you, please imagine what that marketplace might have looked like. And tomorrow we'll continue in their preparations for holding a harvest festival. Okay, thanks for joining. Have a good rest of your day.